Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy.
And I'm Diva.
And this is Twisted Listers, a podcast about murder.
And Liz.
And Diva, this list will officially be called Driven to Kill.
Yes.
People who were murdered by cars. And
Murder by car.
That was a Diva one. You get all the points for that. It's pretty amazing.
Murder by car. Yeah, that's what I was calling it. And yeah, cars are really scary murder weapons. I was inspired by this because someone got murdered by a car in my immediate neighborhood in an area I walk by constantly. And it was a specific corner too that we constantly walk on that sidewalk and that exact corner. And everyone was like, "Oh, it's so dangerous there." And I was like, great. Oh, great.
Yeah, you're like, cool, because I'm there all the time. So
yeah.
awesome.
So there's a lot. LA, as you know, is a really scary place if you're a person trying to not get murdered by a car.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Or
super hard.
Yeah. People in cars, people in cars here are fucking horrible. I just the way that people drive in LA, it's like they don't realize that they're gonna fucking kill somebody. You know?
Oh,
and then
yeah, they don't care.
And then they don't care until it's too late. So
also probably 70% of your favorite celebrities have killed someone with their car.
Dude, it's crazy how many.
Tons of them. So when I was trying to look up celebrities that murdered at one point, for some reason it was oh, they all just hit people with their cars.
Not Beyonce. Oh my god, terrible. Brandy. What's his name? Ferris Bueller?
Matthew Broderick.
Broderick, thank you. There's more. Who?
A bunch of them. There's a bunch
of them. Yeah, there's a ton.
There's a ton of them. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway,
I should have included Suge Knight on this list, but that was kind of an accident? Question mark.
I mean, is any murder that he's a part of an accident? I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of was. I think he was just reckless driving. I looked it up, but Suge Knight counts too. Yeah.
Well, these are much more intentional murders that we're dealing with. They're murders in the true sense of the word, the truest sense of the word. And so it was so funny. We were looking at the list and Diva put this guy's name and then she was also like, please also look at his hairline.
Yeah.
And I looked at his hairline and then I decided to do the case. So thank you for pointing that out because, oh goodness.
It's special. It's distinct. Also,
it is very distinct. Yeah. Anything else we want to talk about? I know you're working on a Patreon.
Yeah.
I'm fucking completely dropping the ball there, but at least we're putting some content out. So we'll have that. I was thinking, I went to the Greystone Mansion again today.
Oh.
And I was thinking that you and I should take a tour and then talk about it on Patreon. That could be
I was thinking about it and we can post on Instagram and stuff because I was thinking about how I would love to go see some murder locations and obviously that's best done with you. It doesn't. Sam was like, okay, but it's not the same.
Yeah, we can get the men to drive us around, but
exactly.
Yeah.
There's so many good ones.
Let's do it. Let's plot it out and we'll do it. That'll be fun. And then we'll post it on Patreon for everybody. So
and we can get snacks and it'll be so fun.
It'll be great. All right, I love that. We just planned a date on the podcast.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, I guess I should just get started. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do it.
All right. Here we go. So. I am doing the case of the forehead bandit. No, it's not. His fucking hair is crazy. This guy's name is Timothy Stemple. And I'm just going to start in mid-1994. 19-year-old Danny Wood is... Oh, I'm sorry. 24-year-old. I apologize. 24-year-old Danny Wood is a fast food restaurant worker. She works the drive-thru. And she meets a man who's just a little older than her one night while she's working. They start flirting. And he starts coming through the drive-thru more and more often. The flirting turns into talking, turns into a couple of dates, turns into a pretty serious relationship. And within a year or so, Danny and this man move into an apartment together in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They have a great life. And this is despite the fact that this wonderful boyfriend has to go home most nights to be with his family.
Uh-oh.
But don't worry, because as Danny was made aware, this man was definitely in the process of divorcing his wife and was also going to get full custody of his kids.
Okay.
because that's what they're always going to do, right?
Right.
This lovely man's name was Timothy Shaun Stemple. So Timothy Shaun Stemple here, who went by Shaun, met Trisha Ruddick when she was only 17 years old. He was only about 18 or 19 and had just moved to Tulsa with his parents around that time from, I think, Ohio. The two fell in love very quickly. Trisha became pregnant after they were together for about 2 years. The two were married and 5 years later had another child. And I just want to tell you that this man's amazing forehead was already kicking like in full effect when he was like 19.
Okay.
So I feel bad for him, but also don't.
But he
Um,
also did fine. I mean, he has some multiple ladies, so he's
yeah,
okay.
so his hairline is doing something for him, I
It's not
guess.
holding him back. No.
It's not at all. Yeah, he is not being held back. I don't normally like to talk shit, but like this is truly like it's a little over the top. Like it's you
Okay.
can't not comment on it.
It's true.
So I apologize because I know we don't want to be bullies, but also like the fuck.
I
Okay.
mean, he's also clearly like a murderer, spoiler alert, so
Yeah, no, that's fine. You can
it
definitely
makes it okay.
let
Yeah.
that one fly. Yeah. So anyway, these two married. 5 years later, they had another child, and they have a pretty normal life. Shaun was actually a soccer coach, like he got paid to do this. And Trisha also worked, and in fact was the breadwinner, and she worked for a local doctor. I'm not sure exactly what she did, but she made decent money. In any case, at the time the story takes place, Shaun was unemployed but looking for work, and the two still had what outsiders considered to be a very strong marriage. And from everything I can tell, Trisha, I think, probably also thought they were fine. I don't know. I don't know. Hard to say. They were also very much involved in each other's families, and both families loved Shaun and Trisha like their own. So, very, very close knit families. Everybody's very supportive, just like an idyllic life, right?
Yeah.
So, now we're going to get to what you call the main event. I know you like to call it that. I'm going to
Mm-hmm.
steal that from you.
Perfect.
October 24th, 1996, right alongside Highway 75, which is, I think, just outside of Tulsa. 30-year-old Trisha Stemple is found. When she is found, the first thought is that she was struck by a vehicle. It looks like she was on the side of the road. Her car is parked right there. There's a flat tire, and she is kind of just laid out. She's dressed. Looks like maybe she was just pulled over trying to fix it. It was dark. Somebody hit her.
Okay.
Police were looking for Trisha because Shaun had called her in as missing when she didn't come home the night before. And when police found her, weirdly, Shaun was already there. And they were like,
Oh,
"What are you doing here?" And he's like, "I just went out
just
driving."
hanging out. Okay.
Yeah, and happened to find her. And now we're in 1996. So I don't really think that you know, GPS was a thing, but I have a feeling that if they had put one on Shaun's car, it would show him driving from his house to the crime scene. But
Okay.
he claimed he'd been driving around, he was looking for her, whatever. So police are there, and the first thing they notice is his lack of emotion. And they say like maybe like people react differently. You
Sure.
cannot at any point really use that as a basis for thinking somebody did something they weren't supposed to, because truly like it's really hard to know.
Yeah.
People react differently. But so as time goes on, so detectives are like kind of thinking like, okay, this was like a hit and run. We should definitely investigate it. And I think if they had thought like she crashed her car and killed herself, they wouldn't have really investigated. But because it was a crime, they continued to investigate because they're like, well, it was a hit and run. Even if it was an accident, like we need to find who did this.
Yeah.
So they start investigating and they start kind of looking at things, and they're kind of, starting to get a little suspicious. And, beyond just the suspicion, which I'll talk about, the evidence that kind of made them suspicious, the family later said that they noticed Shaun changing a lot. He was never around his kids. He was always like leaving them with like the grandparents. He was always disappearing. We all know that he was with Danny, but they obviously
Mm-hmm.
didn't know about that.
Right.
So he's kind of just like bailing out on his kids, bailing out on his life. He's like super stoked that he's free, essentially.
Mm-hmm.
But the family doesn't know why. They think it's maybe just a weird grieving thing because, again, they don't know about the girlfriend. So police, meanwhile, are collecting evidence and pretty quickly start to suspect Shaun. And the evidence that led them to this suspicion kind of trickled in slowly. It started with a witness calling in and stating they had seen a red pickup truck next to Trisha's car on the night of her death with two men near that truck. I
Okay.
also read, I don't know if it was the same witness, but somebody had said that the woman and two men were arguing or fighting. But I only saw that in one place, so I'm not sure if that's really true. When police searched the area, they also found a bat nearby that was wrapped in plastic and covered in blood. So there's
Oh.
a baseball bat, like, 100 feet
Hmm.
from her body. Yeah.
Was this an accident or?
Or, yeah, like a gnarly ass murder.
Yeah. Okay.
Then, in a seemingly unrelated arrest, police brought in 16-year-old Terry Hunt, a local gang member and all around shitty kid. They arrested him for possession of a firearm. And they realized when they arrested him that he had a red truck in his possession. And sort of just maybe on a whim, I don't really know if they knew or not. They asked him about Trisha's murder. He was 16, you know, so he did what 16-year-olds do, and he sang like a canary.
Okay.
Pretty quickly, it came out that he knew Shaun because he was cousins with Danny Wood. And police are like, who is Danny Wood? And Terry here is like, Danny Wood is Shaun Stemple's girlfriend. And they're like, but
Mm.
Shaun was married. And Terry's like, yeah, I know. He hired me to help him kill his wife. So
Oh.
now the case is blown wide open.
Okay. Putting
So
all the dots of this guy's messy ass life together.
yes. So police
Yeah.
start connecting all of these dots, and basically what Terry says is that Stemple had created a plan and to kill Trisha and to collect her life insurance proceeds. And now
Oh,
her
classic.
yes, her life insurance in 1996 was $950,000.
Oof. All right.
So very, very high, lots of money. First, especially for back then, it's like almost $1 million, right?
Yeah.
Um, so his plan was to kill Trisha and live off of that probably forever because, if you do it right, you could, with that much money at that time.
Sure.
So Terry says, Shaun offered me between 25 and $50,000 to help kill Trisha.
Okay.
After he collected the insurance money, he would give it to him out of that. And so Terry recruited another person. I believe he was 14 years old at the time, a
What?
boy named Nathaniel Helm.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. He's just like, hey, child, do you want to do a murder? Like,
Yeah. And so the way that Terry says this is Shaun had this planned out from the beginning. They were going to go buy a bat, wrap it in plastic, and then kill her with it, and then make it look like she got hit by a truck while she was on the side of the road. So Terry and Nathaniel go to Walmart because, of course, they fucking do. In like
mm,
early October, they buy the bat, they buy the plastic wrap. And then on October 10th, they go to this designated area on Highway 75 and they wait for Shaun and Trisha to show up. Later that night, Shaun drives up and said, the bitch, or I couldn't get the bitch out of the house, which like super nice. Apparently,
wow.
yeah. Apparently Trisha was sick and couldn't leave the house. She wasn't feeling well.
Oh my God.
Yeah. So almost, I think exactly 2 weeks later, October 24th, he does the same thing. So here's the thing though. The red truck that was found with Terry had previously belonged to Shaun Stemple. So at the time of the
Mm.
murder, Shaun was the man in possession of the red truck. After the murder, he either gave it to or sold it to Terry, but either way, he no longer had it in his possession, which was like part of his like genius plan to not get like called out by the cops.
Until the guy says, hey, he stole it to me. Like,
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
okay.
So, but anyway, so the cops immediately, so basically when the cops heard like, oh, there's a red truck there, they were like, well, Shaun Stemple owns a red truck. They go to his house. They're like, where's the red truck? He's like, oh, I sold it. But at that point, they'd already made that connection. Right.
Yeah.
So he gets Terry to drive his truck to this spot on Highway 75 and leave the hood up. He then goes home and tells Trisha, my truck is broken down on the side of the road. Can you drive me out there to try to fix it? Now, I had also read that he was out there and called her, like, on a cell phone to have her come out, but I don't think that's accurate. The court documents say
Okay.
that the 2 of them drove out there together to pick up or fix, his broken down truck. So he
Okay.
gets Trisha, who's still sick at this point,
Ugh,
apparently, so long illness, to drive. She's
fun.
she's also
Yeah.
PS, he's like 36 at this or 33 at this point. She's 30 years old. And they have 2 kids. Like
Okay.
2 fucking
Okay.
kids, right?
Ugh,
So
yeah.
he gets her to drive him out to this location, and when she arrives, um in her Nissan Maxima, he, gets out, he starts quote unquote, working on the truck, and then Terry comes up behind Trisha from out of nowhere and hits her in the head with the bat.
Oh my God.
Yeah. He hit her like he said like 2 or 3 times and she did not go unconscious. So Shaun here then takes the bat and hits her several more times.
Oh
And
my
according
God.
to Terry, as Shaun is hitting her, he keeps telling her, "Don't worry, honey, the ambulance is coming."
Ew, why is that horrible?
It's really fucked up. Really,
Ew.
really fucked up.
Yeah.
So Trisha is now unconscious on the ground, but not dead. And apparently at some point she tries to like drag herself like into the
Ugh.
brush on the side of the road. But they either pull her back out or this happens prior. But he lays her down and he tries to crush her head by driving over it with the pickup truck.
Oh my God. This is so
Yeah.
brutal.
Yeah. This didn't work for whatever reason. They couldn't get the pickup truck to actually go over
Oh
her head.
my
So
God.
instead it just dragged her face along the pavement or the
Oh
road.
God, this
Mhm.
is so drawn out and torturous, like for
Yeah.
her.
Yeah. At this point, this is when she tries to get up, and Shaun here grabs the bat and hits her several more times. They then placed her body under the truck and drove over her chest. After this, she rose up to her elbows.
What? How is
So
she still going?
I know. So it's like that. It's like the who? What was the Australian killers that like? Was it Ian and Myra? And they no,
Yeah.
it was. And the woman like wouldn't die. They were like stabbing her like 100 times, and then
Oh
no,
no, Ian and Myra are British.
oh, I said Australian. I'm thinking
Yeah.
British, not Australian. Or I don't
Okay.
know who I'm thinking. But anyway, oh no, 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 it was, and the wife is like, it was Fred and Rose. I don't know. Anyway, it was some couple where they're both fucked up. But
Okay.
this one woman, like, she was young, and they were like, she just would not fucking die, but they did kill her. And when I was reading this, I was thinking the same thing. Like, God, this woman is just like so
So tough.
strong to be like
Yeah.
still alive. And this actually comes up later in the trial, so just remember that. So
Okay.
finally, he hits her several more times with the bat, and she is dead. And,
Okay.
you know, they drive away in the truck. But before doing that, they drill a hole in the tire of her car so it looks like she had a flat tire. Right.
Okay.
He then reports her missing the following morning. And the autopsy reveals that she had fractures to her arm, ribs, pelvis, vertebrae, and skull. So at
Okay.
first, the medical examiner is like, I think she was hit by a car, but they were basing that mostly on like the crime scene. Like, okay, it
Yeah.
stands to reason that's what happened.
There's a car. Yeah.
Yes, but once they did further evaluation, they were like, there's no injuries below, I think, like her knees or her pelvis, where with hit and runs, almost always there is, because think about it. Like even with the truck, the bumper isn't like above your knees generally. And there was
Right.
nothing below a certain point to indicate that she'd actually been hit like by a vehicle driving past her. They also noted that there were quite a few injuries to her head. And on the autopsy,
Mm.
you can see multiple points of impact where they're hitting her, where she was hit, I should say, on the head. So this is what kind of makes the cops go, hold on, we don't think this was a hit and run. We think this was something else. Then they find the bat. Then they get information about the truck. Now they've got Terry. They pull Nathaniel in, and he's like, I'm 14. And yeah, that happened. I went and waited for her, but I didn't come to the next time because I like chickened out essentially.
Yeah.
So Nathaniel testifies. So they arrest Timothy. They arrest him. They find out about, the mistress, Danny. Danny had no idea. Police are confident
Ugh,
that she had no idea
kind
that
of a
he.
mind fuck for her though.
I know. And the worst part is she introduced him to Terry, her cousin, just
Mm,
because she was introducing him to her family because it's her fucking living boyfriend. And so
right.
those two become, quote unquote friends and then concoct this fucking plan to kill this poor woman. Meanwhile, Danny thinks he's just going to get divorced and they're going to live happily ever after. And it's just like, it's such a fucking shit show.
Ugh.
So police then kind of put this, case together. They have the motive of the money. They were deeply in debt because Shaun wasn't fucking working. Um, and I think the couple were having trouble because she was kind of like, you're a fucking deadbeat, like get your shit together. And he just wanted to spend money and do what he wanted to do. So it turned into like, a point of contention. They weren't like having sex apparently.
Mm,
It wasn't good. Their
yeah.
relationship had run its course. They were having issues. So instead of, divorcing, he just decided I'm going to get some money out of this and have, this whole life.
Right, because he's a piece of shit.
Exactly. So he gets arrested. He has both of these kids testifying against him. Like I said, we have all this
Ugh.
evidence, and he's convicted. Terry Hunt, who's 16, was convicted and given life. And
Ugh.
I do believe he has a possibility of parole, but he is definitely still in
Okay.
prison. To this day,
That's
he's still in
God.
prison. I know.
And what a piece of shit for getting kids involved. Not just like, I mean, it's good in a way because they were gonna like give him up instantly, but it's
Yeah.
also like awful because he just ruined a kid's life by getting him
Yeah.
involved in this.
But he basically, so like Shaun here had this like picturesque life. Everybody's like on the straight and narrow. And then he's hanging
Yeah.
out with Danny, her cousins. Her cousins into bad stuff. There's definitely some like
Hmm.
drug use, some kind of like, shiftier shit going on. And there was a lot of like salacious reporting about that. And I feel like Danny's name got dragged through the mud just because she wasn't like this like perfect housewife and whatever, and she was the other woman.
Right.
But I do think also that like Shaun was attracted to that for some reason. And he was
Yeah.
also taking advantage of the fact that these kids were young, they didn't have good lives, they were into drugs. He knew he could get them to do something for money.
Right. Right.
Oh my god, I just choked on my own spit.
Oh no.
I've been doing that more often lately. It's very strange. Okay, anyway. So Terry gets life. Shaun goes to trial. He gets the death penalty because,
Oof.
we're in Oklahoma. This was
Yeah.
premeditated as fuck and vicious as fuck.
Yeah.
Things from there, it's just, appeal after appeal. He maintained his innocence forever. And at
Oh,
first, until the
okay.
trial, basically until the trial started, Trisha's family was behind him. But
What?
once they were presented with the evidence, they were like,
Uh,
oh, never mind.
yeah, never mind.
But his family, including his at least one of his daughters, to this day believes he is innocent. And
Wow.
they did a really good job. Like there was like a free, Timothy Stemple, because it's his full name, Timothy Shaun Stemple, like
Right.
free him website. And they pointed out a lot of inconsistencies in what was going on and said, they tried to say that Danny actually was the one orchestrating this with her cousin to get rid of
Okay.
the other woman. But
Which is
police
conceivable, but
It's totally conceivable, but police were like, "Hey,
yeah.
that absolutely didn't fucking happen. It did not fucking happen." And also like both kids saying the same story separately, and then the
Yeah.
insurance thing, like seeing their life wasn't actually perfect, seeing, he didn't have a job, he was with this other woman. I mean, it all lines up.
Yeah, for
Um,
sure.
One of the things that I saw that they were trying to say was that the autopsy only showed one injury to her head. And if you look at the back of the autopsy, like, kind of drawing of only the back of her head, it's true, there's only one point of impact where she was hit with the bat. But if you look at the side of her head, there's, like, 6 more. So, it's
Okay.
one of those really convenient, like,
You can kind of twist the evidence to
yeah,
work for you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So, he then, tried to like appeal saying that like Terry Hunt was testifying against him to get a better deal. He could have got life without parole, but he got the possibility of parole for turning on him, so he had something to gain. The other thing was there were a bunch of, oh my god, this is insane, I almost forgot this part, but I wrote it down, thank god, because I did research. There were inmates that Shaun Stemple was talking to that he was trying to bribe to kill Terry Hunt and Danny Wood. He wanted to kill his own
Oh my
girlfriend
God.
because he's like, she's one of the only people who can put me away, and trying to kill his accomplice, Terry. He actually wrote, and these, like, he wrote down, like, I, Timothy Shaun Stemple, with, malice aforethought, did like plan and execute the murder of my wife. He fucking wrote this shit in a jail cell and signed it to give to another um inmate to like convince him to fucking kill these people. He did this with like 2 people. So they got a signed confession and they got also
Okay.
like a verbal confession.
How could you know that information and then not? like, oh, and be like, oh, he's innocent though.
They're saying, so here's what they said. They said that he
Okay.
signed those, he wrote and signed those under duress by other
Mm-hmm.
inmates who were threatening to harm him if he didn't do that. And it's like, dude, why? Why
Why?
would another like inmate care that much to make you fucking do that? So the
No.
whole thing is just ridiculous. It's like they have these half-baked fucking excuses for every single thing. But he was put to death by lethal injection using I think it was I want to say phenobarbital. It was something that like is very, very much like not used anymore because it's
Okay.
probably very painful and like
One of
terrible.
those, yeah.
Yeah. But he was put to death on in Oklahoma on March 15th, 2012. And I read about
Okay.
his death and it made me a little sick, I have to tell you.
Oof.
Um,
Yeah.
like reading the last few moments, it really made me want to vomit. And also knowing that like his daughter was there and like watched him and like cried,
Oh
makes me really sad.
gosh.
Like
Yeah. I mean, even
he had no last words and he ate like pizza for his last meal. So
okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I was just gonna say, like, even if no matter how much you hate like the criminal, like the death or like death penalty, it's always disgusting to read about the implementation of like executions. Like it's always
Yeah,
gross
I
because it's
know.
just
I
another
know.
murder, essentially. You
Yeah.
know.
Yep. I know. It's really fucking sad. But it was weird because there were two groups of people in there. One was like all her family and they were like cheering it on. Also the detectives who had to like deal with this case and
Mm-hmm.
like live through it. They were like, this is so fucked. They were like stoked to see it. And then his family who was just like ruined, you know. So anyway, that's that
Okay,
crazy fucked up ass story. Like
Mr.
how
Stemple.
like and to the like one of the things like he wouldn't even talk to the parole board or pardons board. He refused to even speak to them because they wanted him to admit what he did to even consider like pardoning him or not putting him to death. And it's like this guy would rather be put to death than just like admit it, you know?
Wow.
The
Yeah,
narcissism, I don't know. Anyway,
definitely some ego going on for
big
sure.
time, big time.
Wow.
So, yeah, anyway,
Okay.
there he is. All right. There it is.
There's Mr. Stemple. I wanted to do like a car into a crowd attack.
Mm,
There's a lot of those. So
yeah.
I picked one that I think is the most interesting and also that I have kind of a personal affiliation with because of my past.
Okay.
So this is David Attias and the 2001 Isla Vista killings.
Oh no, is this the angel of death?
Yeah,
Oh god, fuck this guy. I had other
yeah,
friends living there at that time too, and like
hmm
this was really traumatizing for like the
yeah.
entire fucking community.
Yeah, I mean, I was not there at this time. But as I'll talk about at the end, I lived through their other tragedy.
Oh yeah,
um,
this was before your time. Yeah, yeah,
yes,
yeah,
this was before my
totally.
time, but I found out about it through the other incident. So
Mhm.
this because I went to grad school at UCSB. So
Right.
uh, about David Attias here. He is at this time 18. He was a student at UCSB and he lived at the Francisco Torres dorm. I tried to include these little local details because I know a couple friends listen who might know
Right, right, right. So it'd be fun
these
like
little details.
interesting for them to hear.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So David is the son of Dan Attias, who is a Hollywood director who directed episodes
Mhm.
for a number of TV shows, including The Sopranos, Beverly Hills 90210, True Blood, and more. I won't list them all. He did win 2 Emmys for directing Entourage. Um,
Yeah.
and he directed one film, which I will say is very good, Silver Bullet. It's a werewolf movie.
Mhm.
Um, very, very good. But back to David. At UCSB, it's clear that he was exhibiting some signs of some kind of mental illness, although I never don't really have a diagnosis at this point.
Mhm.
His classmates describe him as acting erratically. He stalked another student at some point. He's just like talking to himself, doing weird shit. Um,
Huh.
unfortunately, his fellow classmates describe him with the nicknames "quote unquote" Crazy Dave and Tweaker.
Oh, that's
Um,
good. That's a really
yeah,
good sign. That's what you
not
want to hear.
not super empathetic to what is going on. They're just like that guy's
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Um, so we'll look back to what might have been going on with him later.
Okay.
But some stuff was going on with him for sure.
Yeah, something not
Um,
good.
yes.
Yeah.
So February 20, and whatever was going on was not getting addressed or treated. It was just happening.
Right.
Um, So February 23rd, 2001, around 11 p.m. on a Friday night, while under I wrote while under the influence, but later on I'm like, that doesn't matter. But I'll note that he's under the influence of minor amounts of marijuana and oddly lidocaine, which is like a numbing anesthetic. I'm not sure why that
Whoa.
is in his system. I don't know if he went to the dentist that day or what. Um, totally random. But he's not super inebriated, suffice to
Okay.
say.
Yeah, yeah. And also like weed does not this is not
No.
a
And
weed
it was a
thing.
small amount. It wasn't a huge
Yeah,
amount.
no. It's
Um,
dumb.
David decided at some point somehow to go on a murderous car rampage. And his motives question mark for this and degree of premeditation or not will be
Mhm.
discussed down below. Okay.
Okay.
But driving his father's black Saab, David Attias drove down Sabado Tarde,
Mhm.
reaching speeds of 50 to 65 miles per hour.
It's so fucking
And
crazy.
for those listening who do not know the area as well as I, um, that is insane for Isla Vista. Like,
Yeah.
you know this place. This
Mhm.
is an area, especially on a Friday night, that is thick with people, and especially students riding bikes. It's pretty much a biking area, and like we don't even when we were living there, we don't even want to drive there because it's like it's stressful.
Yeah.
You're driving
Yeah.
through a crowd of people and bikes. It's really taken over. Even like there's no one on. They're all on the streets as well, right?
Mhm.
Um, it's a walking city. They should honestly just ban cars. Like, what's the point?
Yeah, they
Um,
really should, and it's really interesting that they don't,
yeah,
considering, like,
but
what kinds of
typically
shit has gone
when
on,
you
you know?
have to drive in and out of Ivy, you do it in like at a crawl, because you're like, ugh.
Yeah, that's fair. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
50 miles per hour is insane. And for my insider listeners, this is Sabado Tarde, just south of the 7-Eleven, where I got slushies many times in grad school.
Mhm.
Coping slushies.
Yeah.
Um, 7-Eleven wasn't there at the time, but it's there now. Okay. So as David sped down the street, he purposefully hit um, several people.
Mhm.
20-year-old Nicholas Shaw Berdakis, a sophomore at UCSB, originally from Alamo.
Mhm.
Christopher Edward Devisk, I think, Devisk, who was 20 and originally from San Diego. Ruth Dasha Golda Levy, who's 20. She was a Santa Barbara City College student originally from San Francisco. And
Mm.
Ruth's brother's roommate, Eli Israel, who's 27, who was visiting her along with her brother. So
Okay.
the aforementioned 4 victims all died from their injuries fairly quickly.
Yeah,
But there's
because I mean, going that fast and, like,
yeah,
veering into them, yeah, that's not a
there
survivable
were
thing.
a number of other injuries, including Ruth's brother, Albert Arthur Levy, who was 27, and he was in town to visit her. And he suffered severe head injuries, and his legs were crushed.
Ay, ay, ay.
Yeah. In addition to hitting people along the way on this rampage, Attias also hit 9 parked cars.
Okay.
Um, so after this short but extremely damaging drive, essentially, David reportedly got out of the car. This is on Sabado Tarde, and he's yelling, "I am the angel of death," when he gets
Yeah.
out. That's the kind of iconic thing.
Mhm.
One eyewitness said he was swinging at people and yelling and bouncing around like he was a boxer. It looked like he was on something, end quote.
Yeah,
So something's going on.
big time.
A, a crowd began growing at the scene, and one person actually managed to subdue him by putting him in a headlock. And another person started like lightly beating him just to get him to fucking calm down or
Jesus.
be subdued. But he
Or
gets
maybe they're
lucid.
just, like, violent and weird, like, let's just, in light of some
Yeah.
things, like
Well, also he just killed people, so
right.
they don't love him right
They're not,
now.
like, happy with him. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but he got loose from these people and he kept charging and punching at random people. Onlookers are yelling at him to calm down, but he just keeps going wild.
Mhm.
Eventually, a deputy arrives and deals, weirdly, David a decisive blow to the leg with a flashlight. So that's what does it.
Okay.
And he just curls up on the ground in a fetal position. That's it. He's down.
He just waits. He's
Um,
just, like, there until
yep.
something else.
I'm
Okay.
down. Yeah. And so he's handcuffed and formally arrested. Uh, after the attack, the small community of Isla Vista and UCSB was completely devastated and shocked. This is a kind of sleepy place, just if you don't know.
Hmm.
Students wore yellow armbands to remember the victims. There were a couple different memorial services and makeshift memorials and candles and whatnot at the scene.
Yeah.
Um, a memorial mosaic was also later installed in Little Acorn Park, which is adjacent to where the victims were killed, and now it's adjacent to another memorial
Hmm.
as well.
Yeah.
Two of
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So David Attias was charged with 4 counts of second-degree murder and 4 counts of vehicular manslaughter and driving under the influence, and he pled not guilty by reason of insanity.
Okay.
So the case went to a jury trial, and in June 2002, he was convicted of the second-degree murder charges, but acquitted of driving under the influence because he really wasn't
Really
that
under
under
the
the influence.
influence.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's fair, to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A week after the verdict is delivered, I guess through a separate process,
Hmm.
a jury found him to be legally insane, which means he was still given a sentence of 60 years, but he was told basically to serve it at the Patton State Mental Hospital in San Bernardino.
Which, like, should be an option for people who aren't, like, rich and connected.
Yeah, he took the words
Just
out of my
saying.
mouth that I'm going to say later.
Oh,
Yeah.
really? Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because, like, what the fuck, you know?
Yeah. In 2012, after serving 10 years at Patton, a judge, and I really want to say that I think it's very fucking weird that it's the same judge from his original trial. I don't think that's typically allowed.
Yeah, that's interesting that
Not
they're doing that.
That's not usually allowed.
No.
But the same judge ruled that David Attias could be sent to a conditional release program in Ventura County,
Okay.
essentially an outpatient treatment program where he still has a lot of rules and things he has to do and follow.
Uh-huh.
This decision was informed by the testimony of his psychiatrist, who at Patton had been treating him for bipolar disorder and pervasive developmental disorder, which I hadn't heard of. Pervasive, just like developmental stuff.
Huh.
They testified that he was no longer at risk to himself and others. However, the testimony is like a bit all over the place, because they say that although he is at a place now where he's benefiting from the treatment and medication he received, over these 10 years, he did have a lot of issues in this mental hospital. He once got beat up for flirting with a patient's girlfriend.
Huh.
He also got in trouble for sending gross and harassing and sexually vulgar letters to the sister of a fellow patient.
Okay, so he's not doing great. Like, he's
And
not, like...
Yeah. They also described him as, quote, provocative, entitled, and contemptuous.
Jesus.
But they're like, oh, this is the doctors. And they're like, oh, but in the past 18 months, we've put him on new medications and his behavior has improved. But also, he's fine now.
Yeah.
So,
which is really interesting because, like,
put him in
generally...
a conditional release.
Yeah, generally, the United States doesn't give a fuck. We're not imprisoning people because we're worried about them getting out. We're imprisoning them because we want to punish them for what they did. So, like, just because he's no longer a threat doesn't mean he didn't murder 4 people. Like, where...
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
you know what I'm
so
saying?
he got...
Yeah. Anyway.
So he got the conditional release program, but like I said, the testimony was really weird. It was like, he's been doing horribly, but like in the past like minute, he's been fine.
Yeah, like, he's fine right now today, so let's just get him out.
Yeah. So they did. Just a side note here, in 2016, tragically, after dealing with severe side effects and repeated seizures resulting from the head injuries he received in the attack, Albert Levy passed away, essentially making him the 5th victim.
The 5th, yeah. So he has now murdered 5 people. He tortured one for years first.
He got really fucked up, yeah. So in actually February through March of 2022, David Attias was back in the Santa Barbara headlines because he was petitioning to be released from the conditional release program and declared sane officially, like have his record just be like, ding, perfect.
Okay, so not only is he out way before like literally anybody else in the whole fucking country would be out, but now he's trying to like get his adult record expunged?
Essentially, yeah.
Wow, the audacity. Only a rich white man.
21 years into what was supposed to be a 60-year sentence, and he's in a conditional release program. He's not even in prison, quote unquote, right?
Nice, dude.
So David Attias testified in this petition hearing that the restrictions involved with the conditional release program, like drug tests and mandatory therapy sessions, for example,
Mm-hmm.
made it impossible for him to have a quote unquote normal life. So he's
Okay.
complaining. He's complaining that he has to go to therapy and take drug tests.
Are you fucking
Um,
kidding me? This
yes,
is so
yes,
infuriating, dude.
yes,
Like,
yes. The
ugh.
treatment team testifies at his petition hearing. The treatment team from the program, and they say that he is not ready for this step yet. And they said
Mm-hmm.
he had quote unquote pushed back on this treatment program. He also had he's had a lot of difficulties in the release program as well,
Mm-hmm.
with people and a lot of like infractions and stuff. And he kind of referenced this himself when he was testifying, because David said, quote, "I know I'm not the easiest person to deal with." And he said he has a tendency to quote unquote ruffle feathers, which is kind of like
Uh,
code for you're an asshole.
yeah, you're a murderer and also a fucking asshole.
Yeah.
And
Um,
I don't even want
so
to know what you're
you
gonna say
might be
next.
relieved. No, you might be relieved to know that this petition was denied. He
Oh,
is
good.
still in the conditional release program in Ventura County. So that's where we are now.
Okay.
So I just have some commentary because, like, look, obviously this kid was slash this young man or middle-aged man now
Yeah.
is mentally ill. Like, obviously, I'm not questioning that. He for sure is. However, depending on your view of like harsh or light sentences, you
Mm-hmm.
could say that him serving essentially 20 something years out of 60 is horrible. However, I'm not so bothered by that, but like you already said it, I'm bothered by the fact that his mental health was so thoughtfully considered, really, in my opinion, only because of his tremendous privilege.
Yes. Agreed.
Um, and I
Agreed.
wish more people, including those without money or privilege or famous parents, could have their mental health like factored in more.
100%. Yeah. Or at all.
Um,
Or literally
yeah,
at all.
and it also feels like it's sad to me because I ask, why wasn't this kid getting the help and mental health treatment he needed at the time when he was 18? And also, why does it feel like he's not really gotten the treatment he needs or slash has resisted it for the
Yeah.
past 20 years? You know what I mean? Like, there seems to be a mix of like he's quite resistant to treatment, but also like, is he getting what he needs, or like is the system actually helping him? It doesn't seem so. Um,
Yeah. Well, it
and
also,
it
like, aside from his mental issues, he just sounds like a fucking dickhead.
yeah, and he sounds entitled. You know what I mean? That's the best way to put it. He just sounds like an entitled rich kid, no matter what.
Yeah.
And he's going about treatment like that. I think,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
kind of that way.
Everything is centered around him and his needs and his, feelings. And it's like, dude, this
Yes,
is exactly why you're a perfect candidate for like not
yes.
being released, man. Like,
The fact that in the conditional release program, he's like testifying, complaining, like this is hard. I don't want to do it. It's like, oh my god, fuck
yeah.
you. How
Like,
about you'll be released when they say that you
oh, the
are?
consequences of my own actions, I really don't like them. So can we just like fix that for me? It's like, bro, what? He's a fuck. He's the worst. He's the
Yeah,
worst.
yeah. I still don't like him. Like I said, even though it's correct that he got mental treatment, more
Yeah.
people should. I still don't like him. And you can
No.
also have a mix of being mentally ill and an asshole. We all know people like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can be
Absolutely.
both. You can be both.
You can totally be both. That's my mom. Sorry.
Oh no, it's dark. Okay.
It's dark.
Um, Finally, I have to mention at the end that awareness of this case, especially for me, was brought to light when there were very intense echoes of it in the 2014 Isla Vista shooting,
Hmm.
which was perpetrated by a little incel baby bitch, rotten hell, Elliot Rodger.
Yeah, fuck that
Um,
guy.
and I personally lived through this. Like I said, I think I mentioned it a few times, so I won't belabor it. But like I
Hmm.
was there going to classes in IV at the time, and it was very like traumatic for
Hmm.
everyone. Um, and in that mass murder, the shooter primarily shot people from his car, but he also mowed down students and bicyclists in his car.
Yeah.
So it was similar, and it
Yeah.
was actually in part, on the exact same blocks as the
I
David
remember
Attias.
that.
Yeah.
Like, I got
Um,
confused momentarily. I was like,
mhm.
wait, didn't this already happen? Like, is this old news? And it's like, no, it's just a fucking repeat. Like,
Yes, and it was adjacent to slash right on top of the same crime scene. Um, and it was also on a Friday night, and it was also
Mhm.
on the 23rd. So people have questioned if stupid Elliot Rodger was doing some kind of like callback thing
He
or
was.
not. Yeah.
He was.
Although, what he did was worse on so many levels because he was
Agreed, yeah, but it
having
was
this incel baby bitch agenda,
mhm,
to it. Whereas David Attias, I don't think had any agenda. I think he was just having a thing.
a thing, yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But still, two really traumatizing events that happened very similarly. So,
yeah. Jesus, dude. That's
yeah.
so fucked up. I remember both yeah, and you were there for one, right? And then my
Hmm.
friends I had a couple friends that went to Santa Barbara that were there for the first one. I'm just like, "What the fuck, dude?" It's fucking
Yeah.
scary and horrible.
Yeah. And you wonder too with David Attias, like, he definitely intended to like rope people down in his car. That was like whatever, however that happened, however long he decided that was an intention. And you wonder if he had the wherewithal to consider that it was Friday night, because I know Elliot Rodger absolutely calculated to do it on a Friday night for the maximum
Right.
amount of people out,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
which is going to be packed. So you
Mhm.
wonder if David Attias thought that through.
I do wonder. I wonder.
Yeah.
I don't know that we'll ever know because I think he's the type of person that even if he's like fully lucid, he's gonna do whatever he can to like make himself be as innocent and much the victim as possible because he just seems like a shithead. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, anyway, that's
Woo!
that. That's Isla Vista, and I kind of had to do it with my connection to the place. Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's less. I mean, it's still horrible. It's still fucking traumatic, and people died. But I'm like, I wasn't about to do the Charlottesville car attack.
No,
So
no, no, no. I still haven't picked my second case, so I'm
maybe you
looking
could do
through
it.
the list. Yeah, no, I don't. I think I'll pass.
You think you'll
Thank
pass?
you.
Okay.
I think I'll pass. Thank you.
It's
Um,
especially scary when it's like now it's legal to like drive into protests. So
Yeah,
sometimes,
yeah, I'm gonna stay out of Florida. Also, really quickly before we go, I wanted to talk about our post about Jordan Neely and his
oh
death,
yeah,
if you don't mind. I posted just kind of reporting on the story because I've been posting like news, reports, and then I made a comment that was like, if you come to this page to tell me that like he deserved it or he should have died or this guy is a hero, like I'm gonna fucking block you. And the amount of and they were all like troll accounts. Like most of
yeah,
them were
yeah.
like 0 followers, 0 posts, like
And
0 following.
yeah,
They were
and
just fucking
also folks who listen to this podcast aren't going to be like, "This is the first time I'm hearing these opinions. I'm shocked." Like that's
right.
not really going to happen.
Right, but I remember, Diva, you messaged me in the middle of the week and you were like, "Wow, people really just want, like, poor Black people to be murdered. They just, like,
Oh
want them to
yeah,
be dead." Like,
yeah.
they
The bloodthirstiness is like it's really disturbing. They're
I
like,
don't understand the idea of
oh,
calling that guy a hero. The thing that really bothers me, because it bothers me on a couple of levels. Because 1, it's an invalid argument, and 2, it just bothers me to know how goddamn stupid people are that this argument
hmm,
actually they're like, "Yeah, that makes sense." They say Jordan Neely had a violent criminal history. And to which I just immediately say, did the man who murdered him on the train know that? Because if he didn't fucking know that, it's irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? So, like, they're trying to, like,
yeah,
make it
yeah, yeah, yeah.
legit because he did violent things in his past, and it's like, unless the guy who killed him knew that, it has nothing to do with what happened, and it really
And
bothers me that, like,
also,
people at first are like, "Yeah, that makes sense," and it's like, "No, it fucking does not," like
I think it comforts people to also distance themselves from the poor and the mentally ill when it's like, in fact, you are actually a fucking bad day away from being right in that guy's position. Like we are all
completely.
teetering, unless you're a billionaire, like we're all just teetering on the edge of like some
Yeah,
disaster making us that poor or some
unless
disaster.
you own, like, the means of production, like you're a business
Yeah,
owner or something,
yeah.
and even then, if you're, like, a small business owner, you may not have
And mental health conditions change, they're affected by those situations too. And like, it's just like, God, have some empathy, you fucking monsters.
monsters,
Like,
absolute fucking
Jesus
monsters.
fucking
People
Christ.
are just
Yeah.
blood thirsty monsters. It's
Yeah.
truly
Yeah.
terrifying, and, like,
Yeah.
yeah, there's, like, so many,
Very
allegorical
much.
movies about it, and people, like, watch the movies and, like,
Hmm.
clap and talk about how much they love it, and then don't realize it's like they're talking about you. Like, you
Yeah.
are them, like so anyway, if you think that Jordan Neely deserved to be murdered in a subway car, I would suggest you stop listening to us right now and also go fuck yourself.
And also maybe like step into a volcano when you get a chance.
Yeah, because are a fucking, like, you have no empathy. You are
Yeah.
like just a horrible person. So that's
Yeah.
my comment on that, because I was just like shocked. I wasn't really shocked. They were all troll accounts, but like,
Yeah.
you know,
It
even the
happens
people
when
who
you
are like, it happens
yeah.
what?
Whenever you do something that's like, oh no, a black person died, you're immediately gonna get a troll that's like, yay, I loved it. I love that they
Yeah.
died.
Let me explain why I'm not a racist for saying this. Let me like
Yeah.
fucking regurgitate what Fox News told me to say
Oh
so that I'm
boy.
not like,
This
yeah.
is why the whole like the phrase Black Lives Matter like started, because people really don't think they do.
Yeah, yeah. And then they're like, well, all lives matter. It's like, oh God, just when I hear people say that, I'm like, you are dumber than shit. And
Oh,
scared. That's the main thing. People are scared. They're
yes.
afraid of giving up their place on the top. And it's like, well, get the fuck
Yes.
over it. Because it's
Yes.
gonna happen. And I'm excited. So
Oh,
anyway. All
right.
right. There it is. There's 2 cases and some strong opinions coming at you.
Yeah, some bonus
Coming in
content.
hot.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to our rants. Thanks for
Mm-hmm.
sticking by us. We love you. And oh what? Oh
Also,
what?
sorry, I had an opinion that came
Dude,
up.
do
Can
it.
I also just say that I get offended when the fucking troll post people are constantly like, you white person, white people like you, and I just want to comment and be like, I'm half of this podcast and I'm brown.
Yeah, I know. That's the funniest thing to
Why
me
do
is
you
like
assume?
people are, I mean, the last time we got attacked for that, it was a white lady who was trying to like outwoke me. And I was like, girl, you're
Mm,
so fucking ignorant. You're fucking telling like a brown person that she's like getting off on the murder of brown people when we're actually just trying to spread awareness. Like,
yeah, and she was like,
joke's
don't
on
use
you.
your co-host or something, whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but I'm here too. I support all of these posts. I support these comments.
Yeah, I'm like not allowed to say that you're brown because
No,
apparently, and I'm like, but you are like,
I am.
it's just a reality. It's just reality.
Yeah,
Like,
it's really annoying.
yeah,
Yeah.
if sometimes you just can't win, but that's because people are
Anyway,
dumb. Anyway, all right, more ranting. Now we're really done.
okay.
Thanks for hanging tough, guys. We should rant more, I think, but we'll keep it
Yeah.
to the end. So if people who like don't want to hear it want to tune out,
Yeah.
you're welcome to. But for those of you who like the spice, there you go.
A little bit.
So again, thanks for listening, guys, and until the next half,
Stay.
off our
Live.
list. Have fun.